Welcome to Behind the Curtain IMO. I'm Betsy Jordan. Let's talk a bit about immigration. There has been a whole lot of conversations around the subject, of legislation that's been brought to the forefront. We had bipartisan legislation, as I've mentioned 2 or 3 times before, to mitigate some of the issues at the border. It was on the floor. My understanding came out of the Senate, was blocked on the House by a whisper campaign from Donald Trump, who wanted to make it a campaign issue. He's not really concerned with answering the problem, but I want to talk to you about the problem itself. It's a complex problem because it affects every state in the nation. It's not just Mexico, the border of Mexico. It affects all the states in the nation too. I was at a meeting where the state of New York was concerned because the soccer fields were being taken up by immigrants and they were completely displaced. And then there are other states that really need for people to move into their states, partly because they need added labor force. And these people who are coming into our country really do want to work. So it's not like they're taking anyone's jobs. It's like no one is being paired with the jobs that are out there for them. And they're not coming in to take anyone else's jobs. We have the jobs for them for people to be able to make their way. It's just being able to pair them with the jobs. It is a bureaucratic nightmare, for one thing. I can't speak to criminal behavior, but I can tell you that the kinds of questions that they ask you when you come across the border go something like, why are you coming here, right? And so, typically in granting asylum, it's not granted easily. It's not granted willy-nilly. It's granted for people who really are afraid for their lives. So if they're coming over here just to get better paying jobs, that's not a good reason for asylum or for any sort of, entry into the country, unless it's by lottery and they've applied and that sort of thing. I mean, there are a lot of regulations around immigration already. Now, the wall was really chicken wire. You need to know that. It wasn't like a big, it's wire, and there were places where it needed to be repaired, and Congress had already made that appropriation, so President Biden did that. He didn't stop it, but this idea that Mexico was going to build the wall, that was just bombast and arrogance coming from the other guy. But I want to share with you something that gave me a much better perspective on what it might be like to immigrate from a country where my life was in danger. And I don't do this often, and I'm going to do it rarely anyway, because what I'm interested in reading may not be what you're interested in reading. But I preferred this book to anything else I've read about immigration. And I don't profit by this. I'm just sharing this with you because it was a very easy read. She's a wonderful writer. Her name is Janine Cummins. I don't know her. She hasn't signed my book. But it's called American Dirt. And what she does is she takes a ground view through the eyes of a woman and her son as they migrate from South America. And I don't want to tell you anything more about it in case you do read it, but what you see is by the time they reach our border, these people are so disheartened anyway. This whole process, those who've come from very far south and in Central America, they've gone through something quite grueling. So it's not wise to dehumanize people who are coming across our border, to turn them into animals in our head. They're not. They're human beings like you and me. And one day you may need to go to another country. I'm hopeful that never has to happen, but we need to be aware that it's not just our universe, we Americans. We have all got connections to different countries, different places. In fact, I'd say we're closer than we've ever been in terms of being connected with the world. So that's my opinion. So do your own research. Again, I am Betsy Jordan. This is Behind the Curtain IMO. Thank you for being here.